Guys, in this video we are going to see how to create this pattern in C programming language. And in order to do this one, you have to know the pattern, like how it's related to column and these rows, something like that, right? Now let's see. Here if you see that stars are going, this is the main thing we are focusing on. To illustrate this one better, we put it in this box diagram so we can see how it's going. So first one, we can see that this asterisk sign, it's 1, right? And then it goes like 3, then 5, and then 7. And you can see that this is increasing in odd numbers, like it's going like 1, 3, 5, 7, something like that, right? Now in order to create the relationship, we have to use an equation, and that is not very obvious, but you can figure it out. Like you can see that number of rows multiplied by 2 minus 1 always gives this number. For example, here you can see this is in the first row. 1 multiplied by 2 minus 1, that's going to give us 1. 2 multiplied by 2 minus 1, that's going to give us 3. 3 multiplied by 2 minus 1, that's going to give us 5. And 4 multiplied by 2 minus 1, that's going to give us 7. So the pattern, we can create an equation like this because we have to use this equation in our nested for loop. And also we have to know the relationship between this space because we have to create an equation for this space too. To create an equation, you can see that in the first one we have 4 and it's going like 3, 2, 1. And the total number should be 5 right here because one of them, we need one more to finish this one. It's disappeared, but we have to have one more. And here you can see that this is 5 and that is illustrating this one. Now if it's 5 minus first row, you can see 4, it's giving 4. So we can make an equation like that, right? 5 minus 2, that's going to give us 3. So that's another relationship. Now we have to use these two relationships in order to create equation for space and the stars. Now let's go ahead and create our nested for loop. But before we do that, let's begin with the introductory statement. So let's say integer number of rows, and then let's say integer number of rows and printf number of rows to be printed. So this is going to appear in the screen in the first place. So when we enter the number, that's going to give us that many rows and the stars. So to be printed, and we can leave a line. So to create a new line, we put \n and then semicolon. And the printf, this is printf statement, we wrote it already. Now scanf statement is going to be something like %d and then comma and number of rows. Okay, now we are ready to go and create our nested for loop. So in order to do this one, first we have to create some integers. Let's say integer row, comma column space, comma column star, and that's it. Now we can create our first for loop. For loop inside the for loop. Now we are going to create a for loop for space. Okay, first let's create for row is equal to 1. Row is equal to 1 and row is less than or equal to number of rows and then semicolon and then row plus plus and curly bracket. Now we are going to create inside for loop, and here we are going to create loop for the space. And before we seen that space is going like 4, 3, 2, 1, so total was 5. And if it's going 4, 3, 2, 1, it means total minus 1 is going to be the space number, right? total minus the row number. Like if it's first row, we are going to have 4 spaces and something like that. Now let's create the equation for that one. So 4 column space is equal to number of rows is total number of rows minus the row we are looking for. Like first row, you mean that's row, then column space greater than or equal to 1, and then semicolon, and column space decrement by 1 each time, right? Decrement sign is minus minus. And then we have to create another loop for the stars, but before we do that, we have to put a printf statement for this one. So here we have to put printf, and this is a space, so we are going to put a space like this, just a space, and then semicolon, and then we are going to put our for loop for the stars. For column star is equal to 1, and then column star. So before we seen that stars are going like 1, 3, 5, 7, something like that. So we know that number of rows multiplied by 2 minus 1 is going to give us a number of stars. Because if it's first row, 1 times 2 minus 1, that's going to be 1. Second row, that's going to be 2 times 2 minus 1, 3. And third row, 3 times 2 minus 1. So the relationship is like that. So using that one, we are going to create an equation right here. So this is going to be less than or equal to row times 2. Row times 2 minus 1 semicolon, and then column star plus plus, each time increment, right? Increment by 1. And now we have to put a printf statement for star. Okay, printf star and semicolon, and then finally we put another printf statement for new line x/n. Okay, and a semicolon. Now this should work. Hopefully this will work. Let's give it a try and see what happens. Yes, there are some error. Let's figure it out. So number of rows, the first one, it should be together, because we type everything should be similar, right? Number of rows, number of rows, so we shouldn't leave a space. That's the first mistake. Let's run this one and see what happens. And another mistake, we have printf/n. Okay, there's something wrong right here. Oh, I didn't put f right here. Okay, let's give it around, and now it works. Let's give a number 7, and you can see we are having 7 columns, and like the pattern we expected. This is the pattern we want, right? And let's try. You can try different numbers. Like let's try a different number. For example, if you want to try 10, you will have a big triangle like this. And that's how we do this kind of. That's how we create this kind of pattern using nested for loop in C programming language. I hope you guys find this video helpful. See you next time.